All right, let's see if we can get this running here. Looks like OBS is recording. Looks like my microphone's being picked up. All right, should be able to see my hands. All right, so how's it going, Josh? So this is, again, really much a first draft of this sort of thing. I did get the geometry added in. If you see, I can actually click my hands here. So now I have the point cursors that AJ has talked about. And if you hover them over the key, it will change and it will play the sound effect recorded. Just like he mentioned, the center key has a different audio cue. So the idea is that you can look up here where you're supposed to be typing and you can tell from the audio cue whether you're back on like the home in the middle there. So there's still a little bug. There's a lot of stuff that I need to iron out here, but for the most part, like this is a first draft of like it actually works. So it's a little low right now. I don't know why it loaded in this low. It should be roughly up here at chest shoulder height. But another thing that I've added on top of AJ's implementation is color coding. So you can see here that the actual layout of the 8 keys is determined by the actual rotation of the point cursor here. So it actually listens for different angle thresholds on this point cursor, and when it passes them, it changes the layout. And so that changes which keys you have access to, but it also changes the color. So again, to sort of double down on AJ's theory of like, I need to be looking up here, not looking at the keyboard, I can very clearly see the color change out of my peripheral vision and know what layout I'm on. So I shouldn't need to like guess if my hand is rotated just enough to the side to be on this layout versus that layout. So let's see, in the middle here we have the change over to the number and special characters layouts. And you can see their color change is also a little washed. So you can also tell out of your periphery whether you're on this set of layouts or the letters here. And then we have the backspace. This is the shift key, I believe. Could be caps lock. I think that's actually shift. Let's check. No, that is caps lock. Okay. So maybe it should be. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's still a little bit of finickiness on how I'm doing the detection for this click right now. So basically, what I have it doing right now is it remembers the last thing that you touched, the last thing that the point cursor entered, and then it submits that key when you do the butterfly grip. You can see it shows you right here which one it's remembering, and it inserts it there. The problem with this is if I then change my mind and I like miss this over here, or I'm again out here somewhere and I click, it's going to insert that letter. So I'm going to go in and change that. Like I said, there's still a whole bunch of like UX and quality of life stuff that I should be doing that I can add to this to make it a little better. This is actually playing the sound. It should reset this. I bet the pointer to that widget is not hooked up right now. So let me just manually go back and remove this. So I have not practiced typing on this yet, so we're just going to try to go through. A buddy David of mine is working on the TRIE structure for the letters for like valid English words. And he's writing a little standalone C++ application that is hopefully going to let me add spell checking, error correction, and like autocomplete into this interface. So in theory, like as you're typing and you get to a point where it is deterministic, what the rest of your word is, like if you type AAD, and like if the only valid word that starts with that substring is aardvark, then it will pop up a button like out here somewhere that you can switch to and grab, and it will just auto-submit the whole word aardvark. So that should save you a whole lot of time. AJ specifically mentioned that one of the biggest things that he saw that brought the accuracy up was the ability to check the first letter to determine whether if you swapped the first letter of what the user actually typed for something else and the rest of the substring stayed the same, that caught the majority of the errors. Basically, people started on the wrong letter, but he typed the rest of the word correctly. So he just checked first letter insertions. depending on how performant David's checker is, I may be able to check more substrings than just, swap the first letter, keep the rest. But we'll see. That's part of the implementation and part of the research that I'm going to do for my dissertation. So this is a super basic setup right now. I can show that it's working. I can show letter insertion, deletion, removal. Right now, I just have this, the standard text. This is the, if I remember correctly, this is the sentence used by like all fonts because it is the shortest, complete, grammatically correct sentence in the English language that contains at least one of every single one of the 26 letters. So let me, I'd really like to raise this up. Yeah, I'm going to have more like levers and stuff over here so you can actually pick the interface up and drag it up. There's ways that I can have it follow the user, so if I walk over here, it'll just come with me. There's ways I can lock it in place. There's just a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to be doing for this when I'm going to test it compared to like, use the laser pointer, click on the keyboard, and how bad that is, and actually poke the keyboard. That's also bad. You can see I have the widget interaction components already embedded in the pointer fingers anyway of the hands, and so you can actually poke the keyboard that comes out of the VRExpansion template plugin, which is what I'm using to get the procedural hand animations right now and to handle the headset. So, if I start typing, again, you can grip and hold down, and then if you hold that grip and you touch another letter, it will insert it again. So this is how AJ was doing it, and I believe the way he had it actually submit was when you let go of the grip. So I'm gonna look at that. I may or may not do that. The way I have it right now is here at the end, I have a space and no space option. And if you click space, it'll submit this word and it'll append the space to the end of it. If you click no space, it'll just straight up submit it. So right now, I submitted part of this, because in theory you submit every word, so whether there's a space or no space, you want to just go ahead and insert it. You can build strings from both hands, so you can build them, in theory, very, very quickly. I went ahead and submitted that string, and I have a checker right here. There's an audio cue, and you can see the submitted text is in red because it's done a match. It's done a string-to-string comparison, character by character, and it says, hey, this doesn't match what you're trying to type, which is the target string up here. So I'm going to go and pull some typing tutorials for how to learn QWERTY on a keyboard, and learn and take that curriculum basically, extract the curriculum that I can, because a lot of the typing curriculum from 40, 50 years ago has entered the public domain now, where it's just common that it's not something that can be copyrighted, or it's something that we can modify just enough to tick that box. So I'm going to go pull some typing curriculum for first you learn how to type basic letters, then you learn how to string letters together, then you learn how to type basic words, and then you learn how to type complete sentences. And I'm going to input that in sequences, and then add some VR and simulation specific UX on top of that for psychology of learning and how we should reinforce or tell the user we need to do this again, or we need to try this in a different context. Things that are going to help you commit these layouts to long-term memory. This, from what I can tell, from everything I can tell looking at AJ's videos, this is the exact layout of these keys that he used. So I don't know exactly why he chose to lay out the keys exactly like this. I've had a few users test this already and tell me, it doesn't make sense that my A and B are on different layouts. It should be A, B, C, D, they should be in alphabetical order or something like that. AJ mentioned in one of his write-ups or in one of his videos that he chose this layout from amongst several for a specific reason with regards to, I believe, how frequently these characters are used in the English language. When David gets done with his TRIE structure, we can double check that and sort of compare, what if we want to keep this layout exactly the same. And to be honest, if I do my first dissertation comparing this version of Lexting, just this layout exactly as it is now with the UX and spell checking and the autocomplete, if I compare this to, you know, typing with a keyboard and typing with a laser pointer, and we determined that this is absolutely better when the users had a certain amount of training, like on average after 5 hours, on average after 10 hours, on average after 20 hours, whatever it is, then they become incredibly more proficient and or more accurate. These are all metrics that we can, you know, extract from the user study. So I think the first experiment is going to be make the interface and then teach people how to use it, test and compare it in its current form with the current layout directly against the other 2 typing methods, and see, given, you know, how long, what the training curve looks like, and then what the accuracy and speed curves look like as you progress along the, you know, timeline of training hours. That's going to be the first experiment, and if that goes really well, which I assume it should, AJ's theory seems really, really solid. If that goes well, oh, that resets that string, that's why. This string doesn't have a reset. Okay. If that first experiment goes really well, I think the second experiment is going to be trying different layouts, trying different submit types. So one of my users mentioned, you know, it doesn't really make sense for me to do like this weird, you know, butterfly grippy style motion, especially if I'm trying to line up this, you know, tiny point cursor and I go to grip and it ends up like moving outside of the block. So he said it would make more sense if I could just hold my hands and then like pull the trigger button, because the button is like a much more, like there's not a lot of haptic feedback from the controllers. There's none out of the box, but I can make these things rumble when you actually hit the grip sensor. I think that'll help a lot for letting people know whether they've just rested their hand on this or whether they've actually triggered the grip. Because the index has 2 different modes. It has one event that fires when you just lay your fingers. You just rest them on the pressure sensors. And it has another one for when you actually pull down on that grip, and there's individual force sensors for each digit, including the trigger finger. And you can see that in like the Valve demo that they put out specifically for the index controllers. It actually shows you that visualization on the back of your hands. There's little like blue bars that fill up based on how much you press the grip sensor. So that should be everything. Give me just a second. Yeah, so the first experiment is going to be testing it versus the other 2 typing methods, and then the follow-up experiment is going to be validating this layout versus other layouts, validating this input method versus other input methods. There's a dozen different things we can do with this, and it's just going to be interesting to see how long each one of those is going to take, and just how many white papers we can turn it into. I think that's it. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to record something specific or get back to you. Over.